Hello, I'm David Kain. I'm the president of Kain Automotive, and I'm really excited today to be able to interview a dear friend of mine. His name is Pete MacInnis, and he's the CEO of ElendSolutions. And for those of you who may not know who Pete is, Pete actually, in my opinion, has been the real pioneer when it comes to online digital finance. And some of you all probably remember some of the early days where you'd go to a dealership website and you'd click to give finance information. Pete was the one that introduced the video guided credit application, and it was so far ahead of its time. And Pete, I'm really thrilled for you to be here and kick around some ideas about online digital retailing and some of the elements that dealers need to consider as they go forward with this. So please introduce yourself to the audience.
I'm Pete MacInnis, CEO of ElendSolutions, and I am honored to be here with the most charming, nicest guy in the whole industry.
So Pete, talk about ElendSolutions. What are you proud of? I know it's been in business for a really long time. You've got a lot of experience in finance. Tell us how it came to be. It's always fun to have the opportunity to hear from someone who's created a company, how it came about. What was your precursor to it? What spurred you to create Elend?
Oh, wow. I haven't been asked that in like 15 years. So that's cool. So anyways, I spent over 20 years in the auto finance side of the business, the lending side of the business, back in the day. I mean, when I started, it was like, believe it or not, way back, I remember taking credit applications over the phone from dealers. We would pull, sometimes, we had to put this old machine that made all this noise to pull credit reports, right? And then it got to a point where sometimes, let's say Equifax is down, So we actually had to call Equifax and give them your codes over the phone, and they would read the credit report data to you when the system was down. And then you write it all down, and then you would manually underwrite the deal based on that and calculate your debt to income and payment to income ratios and all that kind of stuff, early on. And then it moved to, we got almost to into 2000, when DealerTrack and Route 1 came out with this thing that actually replaced the fax machine. And during that time with the fax machine, I remember, we would process like maybe 15, 20,000 apps on a Monday, and then we'd have 500 on a Thursday. Wow. And you think of the bottlenecks on a Monday and, 60 data entry operators inputting applications, pre-DealerTrack type thing and Route 1. And then we moved on to, I looked around and said, we had a room full of fax machines and everyone had a label like, Nebraska, New York, Florida, and each fax machine was for a different state. And these things were just pumping out, right? And it was just that craziness. And then DealerTrack Route 1 came out with something to replace that, it's like replace the fax machine. And so all you had to do is push a button, send it to shotgun it to a bunch of lenders and you're good. Yeah. Well, that was kind of from that standpoint, but that was kind of what I saw as the last major big thing that happened in auto finance in terms of consumer dealer lender communication. So historically it was that. So I stepped back and went, there's got to be a better way to do this, and started, I had co-founded an auto finance company, way back then and said, what am I going to do in my next life? I think I want to leverage that 20 something years of experience and look at all the inefficiencies between dealers and lenders and, all the breakage. And how do we solve some of that and, and take it to that next level? I wasn't sure what that was. So I created dealer-centric solutions and, been around for a long time. We pioneered the online credit applications. We processed millions for thousands of dealers and all that good kind of stuff. But a couple years ago, we decided to rebrand as ElendSolutions because we matured and evolved as a platform. And we're much more than that, long ago, instant pre-approval credit app that we did 15 years ago. So we've evolved and grown since then. And so now we're really in the process of launching a digital finance platform to really help empower and legitimize digital retailing today, whatever that might mean to different people.
Wow. So Pete, what a wonderful background. And I, we have a joint friend in Alan Cooper, and we were talking the other day that he read something that said, the reason why I charge what I do for 30 minutes of work is because of the 30 years of experience and knowledge that I've accumulated. And that's why my price is this and the benefits you get from that. As you move forward into this, what is the new buzzword in the industry that's kind of the old buzzword that kind of dipped and now is, whoa, front and center is digital retailing. What role does ElendSolutions play in the mix of this? Are you integral? Or are you the down to the detail payment? What role do you see Elend playing in this spectrum?
Supporting the transaction. So from a consumer's perspective, they want to get negotiate price on the vehicle, estimate trade-in value, and then get to a true real payment on the vehicle.
Mm-hmm.
And our role is really around the finance side and really supporting the dealer, supporting digital retailing, and really the workflow. So how do we help get a customer when payments are as important as price and the terms are as relevant to them as more so than they've ever been, getting to the point of how do we help the industry get to negotiating a transactional deal, a fundable contract with a lender, and do that remotely. So we want to support both. But from our perspective, it's bringing digital finance forward in the process. So making finance part of the sales process negotiation, and it's enabling a consumer to do that when they want, where they want, and where they want. And when you enable that, you're also now moving that information pendulum shift back towards the dealer, because now they know as much about the consumer as the consumer knows about their vehicle purchase. And both have the same goal. They want to consummate a transaction. So our role is, how do we facilitate that efficiently and effectively as early in the process as possible? So from our perspective, digital retailing is enabling consumers to do what they want, when they want, how they want it. But how can we also remove bottlenecks, disconnects, and profit leaks for the dealer at the same time, while enabling them to do what they do best and focus on selling cars and making money?
Yeah, and I think one of the greater fears that I'm experiencing from the dealers that we work with is, I love digital retailing, but that profit leak that you were talking about is the customer, because you and I have sat here and participated with our clients and watched the degradation of gross profit in new car sales. A lot of challenges in used car gross profit as well, but definitely in new cars. And that shifted over to a high dependency of back-end gross or finance generated gross. So one of the early concerns that a lot of our clients have really suffered through is, do I really trust that the consumer is going to add products or markup rates or anything of that nature? What guidance do you have, or what experience can you share with us that suggests that consumer self-serving or salesperson guided online digital retailing can help a dealer still preserve a reasonable or a healthy back-end gross profit?
Well, I think that the dealer wants to embrace digital retailing, but I think the slow roll is they're saying, prove it works. Don't tell me it works, prove it works. Show me actually matrix and data that says I can hold my gross profit in the deal.
Yes.
And so we're very focused on the finance piece of that, because when you think about it, there's 3 profit centers for the dealer on the sale. There's the vehicle purchase, the trade-in, and the finance. So really, without the finance moving forward in the sales process, you have a big hole there. You don't know what it is. And a lot of times the dealers focus on the profitability of the sale, but not the finance, because they're like, we're going to negotiate that, we're going to figure out the trade, and then we're going to just hope we're going to make money on the back end.
Yeah.
Secondary, without knowing, does that customer qualify, and how do selling products, additional F&I products with that customer match up to their qualifications, to the lender programs based upon what the payment they were quoted online. So when you think about when they say the self-help things, dealer are very suspect about that, because they're saying, hey, let the customer self-desk their deal. Let them go through this little digital retailing tool, estimate their own credit score and decide what their score is. Let them pick their own interest rate and all this. And in one case, that has got nothing to do with reality. So what we did a survey a little earlier this year with our dealers, and one of the survey result questions was 75% of the dealers said that 75% of the deals that originated online through a digital retailing had to be reworked when they got to the dealership.
Wow.
Because, they were in there quoting a payment. Maybe it's a tier 1 payment. As if here's the best case scenario. Here's a tier 1 payment on a certain particular vehicle or model. And basically, here you go. Here's your deal. 60 months, $299 down, $299 a month, you're good. Well, it turns out the guy's a tier 4, but not a tier 1. And so they have to rework the deal in the dealership. So when you start thinking about digital retailing, how are you going to do that when the guy's sitting in his living room?
Yeah.
Right? Are you going to go first, second, third, fourth pencil? Let's wait till we get to the box and finance. Let them give them the bad news and rework the deal.
Yeah.
Or you do that with a customer. You can't do that with a customer online, right?
Yeah, you most certainly can't. And it's interesting that you bring it up that way because I'm very familiar with the trade-in value. And as a consumer, very rarely do we see a consumer select good or fair when they're expressing the condition of their trade-in. What's your experience when a consumer is confronted with an option to select your credit? What kind of credit score have you got? Move the bar back or forth to, I'm a 600, I'm a 700, I'm an 800. What do consumers typically fool themselves and maybe try to fool the dealer? Because what we're seeing a lot of times, particularly during the current crisis, is a lot of consumers are trying dealers on because they're hearing about sales, and we're seeing some of the applications come over that are really struggling before COVID, not people who, recently lost their job and their credit might be risky, but people who had always known. And I guess where I'm going with is, what's the consumer behavior in finance? Are they optimistically saying I'm better than I am, or do you see consumers typically are truthful when they express what their credit rating is?
Well, I'd like to answer it a different way and
Yeah.
say, let's assume the customer, without debating how many of them are fudging or not, let's say they are accurate and they know what their credit score is. And they say, this is my credit score. Okay. Well, that's just one attribute to the determination of what their final terms are. So there's this fallacy that you're a 720 credit score, you get tier 1 credit. Okay, so what happens if that young college graduate, they just graduated this month and they don't have a job, but they got a 720 credit score because they're our user on your daughter's a user on your credit card, right? So she's got a 720 credit score. She didn't even have a job. Well, she doesn't qualify to buy a bicycle.
Yeah.
Then you got another guy, that maybe have a 650 credit score, but he's rich and he can pay cash, but he wants to pay financing. Well, maybe he went through a divorce last year and he temporarily had a little glitch and he had, a situational problem, but the guy's got all the stability, all the ability to pay. That guy can get financing anywhere. He might put half down, right? He can get financing. And that's just off this score thing gives you an example of why there's a lot more to it than that. And everybody, I think there's a perpetuating the whole the distrust with the consumer when you're saying, oh, you're going to get this, when reality is there's so many other factors, right? You talk about a trade-in. Think about the appraisal of a trade-in. I'll give you one example. You could take a trade-in and say a customer's upside down on a trade. Or how does that impact the deal? You could quote a rate on a tier 1 on a customer or a tier 3. So let's say, I'll give an example. Let's take a captive finance. Let's say Nissan, right? And Nissan will say, all right, you're in the top, they got 9 credit tiers. If you're in the top 3 and you're on a Nissan Rogue, you get a 50 basis points drop in what the published rate is because it's a Rogue and you're in one of those tiers. But you don't get it if you're in tier 4 through 9. But then also, if let's say your loan to value in those first 3 tiers is under 100% loan to value, you get another 40 basis points drop in the basic rate. But and you can go up to 140, but you'll actually get a drop in rate pricing adjustment based upon that. But then if you swing it the other way, say, what happens if you're tier 4 through 9 on a Rogue and your loan to value is 101%? You have 150 basis points bump the other way off the quoted rate.
Nice.
So that's all going to change once you get into putting a true deal together. That's what I meant about a transactional deal. When you bring all the pieces together, what's the impact? What's it look like? And that's why dealers say 75% of the time, we got to rework the deal. So you got to move finance forward and bring all of that and leverage all of that technology, all of the underwriting guidelines, the pricing, the advanced guidelines, and do all those calculations and things and run it against multiple lenders, because all the lenders have different programs. Yeah. And how do you waterfall those and say, is this going to stick? Are you just going to play the guessing game and then hope that later you come back and tell the customer, oh, I know we agreed on this, but your payment's $40 a month higher.
Yeah.
Now let's talk about a service contract, right? And that's the battle they always did in the dealership, because you had silos between sales and finance.
Yeah.
Now try to do that remotely. It's crazy, right?
Yeah. So
not that easy.
let's talk about a path forward. So what is the right approach, and what kind of counsel are you giving your clients?
Well, the consumer wants to do more most of his research. They want to get to the deal. What is my deal? What is the deal online? They want to get as much research in that. So the fallacy is there's a lot of promotion about, oh, buy the car online. You can just like the commercial says, if you have a phone in a finger, it's magic, and that's why dealers are going, come on, that's not reality. So for the consumer, they want to do all their homework, and then whether they have a car delivered or whether they go to the store, they want to save time. They want to know, they want it to be that whole 2018 buzzword of transparency, and know that. And so do that, be upfront with that for the consumer, then you're going to get what you want as a dealer. So I'm going to say you need to start with that, is try to get as close to reality as soon as possible, because then you're going to build trust with that consumer. So
when you look at the Elend platforms and stuff, what are you working on? What can we share with your clients and my clients that I hope will become future clients of yours? What do you want them?
I've been waiting for that.
Absolutely. So Pete, what do you bring to the table? What does someone get with Elend?
Well, what's interesting, let's talk about even the current environment like that. When you talk about our legacy, our credit solutions, the online credit apps and stuff we have in store, what's really interesting and I'll give you an example. High profile New York City dealership, customer of ours for a long time. They were getting about 115 credit apps a month on our online product, that legacy product. And, consistently that was fine, right? Well, they called me at the end of March and said, Pete, we got a problem. We know you can do a lot more for us, and we haven't been paying attention. Can you tell us a couple things we can do, because we're shut down, but we're still selling cars online. Mm-hmm. But tell us, how can we leverage some things? And I gave them 3 ideas of things they could do with our current product, and they instituted one of them, and they went from 115 apps a month in February. In April, they had over 500.
Wow.
And that was just one of the 3 things I recommended they do with the existing product that they were subscribed to. And so what it turned out is, when we're talking about this whole transactional deal, so on that product, it's about, okay, so yes, we're integrated with their digital retailing tool, right? Where that app for that process come into our platform, and we have our apps, and then we have a whole in-store, and then we have all these custom URLs that dealers can put on Facebook. They can do email campaigns, all these different targets. So they have all these different ways, personalized by individual agent. And, so there's like all these different ways that they can leverage that particular tool. And so that worked for them. So we're really trying to help the dealer get customers who are saying, I'm ready to transact, and be able to get to them into the transactional process, not the lead gen process, but actually starting the deal and getting to a real deal. So that part is working. But you said what we're working on is, the whole digital finance platform. So we've been able to take and build out all these lender programs on a waterfall and get down to the reality of, let's say, a manufacturer. You could say, first qualifying the vehicle up front, right? How does the vehicle qualify? And then overlaying the customer's qualifying, and then overlay the vehicle. So another example would be, like I mentioned, the Rogue. So let's say, for example, a customer's on a Nissan Altima. Well, they're the Nissan Altima. So just the manufacturer alone, captive lender has standard rate sheet programs. They have their incentive rate sheet programs, and they have their regional rate sheet programs. and they all have different rates, terms, and payments associated to those based on different vehicles. So let's just go specifically on a standard program on a Nissan Altima. A Nissan Altima has 8 different trim levels. So think about 9 credit tiers, all the different terms, 24, 48, 60, 78, 70, 72, 84, all the different down payments, and say, based upon all these downs with all these different terms, there's 8 different trim levels of an Altima, trim levels. They all have different interest rates at different terms at different credit score bandwidths. Wow. And also different money factors on the lease side at each term, at each credit tier, at each trim level. So when somebody averages like, hey, here's an Altima, here's the payment, it's like, well, which one is it?
Yeah.
Right? So our engine has built all of that. We have that ability to get to the point where we say is, what is the lowest payment for this particular vehicle on these terms with this down and this term? What is the best available? And how does it match to the customer? But then we do is say, hey, by the way, dealer, we can also roll in your dealer participation. You want to get to a lowest payment. Well, that means you might have to go on a specials and get a flat fee of $250 or $200.
Yeah.
But then if you get them on the payment on standard, you might get to bump at 1.75 basis points, which could give you $874 back in finance participation. Well, if you know that upfront in your negotiation with the customer, then you can say, well, the customer's hot button is price, or their hot button is payment or trade. Well, address their hot button, concede their hot button. If you're going to make, if they're about getting the car at cost and you can make money on the back end, you're like, okay, I'm still going to make my profit. Or so it's given the ability to push which lever in order to help that dealer maintain that profitability and not get them separated into the individual, race to the bottom, commoditization of the price or the trade or the finance. A dealer says, I can't do a full deal up front digital reach unless I have all the pieces, because I need to protect my profitability. Unless you have all 3 legs of that stool, it's very hard to do that. And that is what we're bringing to the front of the sales process.
Good. So what do you feel like is the pros of digital retailing? So it's out there.
Oh.
I mean, the sign up was ridiculous during this crisis, and every dealer that wasn't on it is now on it. I'm curious how many will retain it once things kind of normalize, whatever that's going to look like. But what are the advantages?
Well, I think digital retailing is really in its infancy, and because of COVID, it may have just got into kindergarten, overnight, right? And so it's really early. It's still early in the game. I think that what digital retailing that most people think of today is, kind of the online website, traffic thing, and kind of walking yourself through the process.
Yeah.
And that's just in promising that that's the car sale. Well, in reality, it's still enhanced lead gen, but it's been hyped up as selling a car.
Sure.
Online. So now what's happened is with the COVID thing, the consumer is saying, I was not interested in buying. It was that small percentage that wanted to buy online. Most were still saying, I just want better and more information up front. And I'm still going to go over the dealer and buy the car. Well, now because of the social distancing, they're saying, wait, you guys have been telling me I can buy it online and I can't go to the store to buy the car. So I'm now going to expect you to deliver on your hype. So that's really intriguing. So now I think everybody's, not only the dealers go, I got to jump on the digital retailing bandwagon because I have to, I mean, how the dealers always been, they're always been so focused on, it's this month, I've got to close the books. I got to close the sales this month. Yeah. I know I need to do this. I'll do it next month, right? But now that their month has gotten destroyed and it's really painful, they're like, okay, I need to make some changes, So process change has always been hard in our industry. And now it's kind of like people say, well, I know I need to do it, but I'm not going to do it until I have to, until it's so painful that I got to do it. Well, guess what? There's a lot of pain going on right now. Oh, so I think the process change is there, and it's forcing people to make those process changes. But I'm thinking, that's actually can be a really good thing. That doesn't make it a bad phrase or a bad word. It's look at process change, the things that can help you do the things that are most important to you to help you be most successful. The things that you now have time to do that you didn't have time to do before as a dealer, right? Focus on the minutia, the things that in your workflow, in your processes that has always gotten in the way of you achieving your goals, and figure out, how do I mitigate those? How can I leverage technology to help me get some of the minutia out of the way, the things that slow down what I'm trying to accomplish, and take time to look at those things carefully and say, how can I improve that? Because once they improve that, they're going to be also more efficient coming out of it. And they're not putting what they're doing at risk either. They're saying, no, these process changes are going to help me evolve in the post-COVID-19 environment.
Yeah.
And I think it's a good time for the dealers. And so it's not just the technology, it's making that cultural change, right? And that starts with the leadership. So it isn't just about the technology. You need to have the cultural leadership that's bought in, that said, we have to plan for the future, because it's a lot different than it was the past. And how do we do that? And get the right people in places that are bought into what that dealer wants to do.
Yeah, so let's talk about structure and some of the changes that you're seeing, and maybe any prognostications you'd care to make. What is the future role of the finance manager? Are we going to see a merger of finance and sales and salesperson, or finance manager, salesperson? What are you seeing, and what would your guess or what would your prognostication be?
I think that whether by role, more than by role, because you've got all different models. You've got the one price places. You've got some people that are letting somebody handle the customer from cradle to grave, and you got others doing traditional process. So rather than, and what I don't want to do is like, I would never want to be someone who hasn't been a car dealer, tell the dealer how to do his business.
Yeah.
I would rather say, make sure that the information is in the right hands of the right people at the right time. Take the blinders off your personnel, whether it's your finance director, your desk manager, your BDC. I mean, think about a BDC. What is the BDC's role primarily been? Okay, we got the lead, get them in the store, right? Schedule the appointment. That's it. Get them in the store. Well, guess what? So what happens if they aren't going to come into the store?
Yeah.
Well, then you need to empower that BDC manager, right? And those people with the ability to how to put a deal together. So you can leverage technology like what we're doing with our deal maker platform, to be able to say, how do we bring all of that finance knowledge that the finance director has, the desking expertise of a desk manager, and bring that electronically tools together. So when that consumer is talking about scheduling that appointment, they're going, I'm not coming in till you tell me the final terms of my deal. Empowering that guy to say, hey, I can quote you the final terms of your deal with confidence that if we put a salesperson in the car and deliver the car to your house, that what's on that contract is going to be what we just got discussed. So it's really about bringing that technology to help and empower, let's say, even a desk manager versus the finance guy. It's like, well, how about taking all the tribal knowledge of the finance director and empowering that at the desk level, right? So he can put the right customer, the right car with the right deal structure up front, first pencil, and know when they get to finance, the finance guy doesn't have to give them the bad news that that's not the terms, and then turn around after this. And by the way, now that your payment's up $25, let's talk about a service contract.
Yeah. Trust is
so it's really, I think it's more about information flow, getting all the right information in the hands of the right people at the right time, and making sure everybody in that transaction supply chain, whether it's the agent, the sales manager, that everybody's cohesive. Whether that's one person doing it all or 5 people doing it, that the information flows accurately, completely, and efficiently, and where the customer trusts it, and it's efficient for the dealer.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. So, Pete, is there anything that you'd like to say to those who aren't using your technology? Let's not necessarily be pitchy, but why would they benefit from ElendSolutions?
Well, for dealers that are our current customers, I would say please reach out to us. Like the example I gave of the New York City dealer, it'd say like you're using 20% of its value, right? And we really want to help you get through these tough times. And we're really well positioned to help them do that. So it's like, please reach out to us and let us give you some best practices. Let us take you through some training, things of that nature. That's what I would say to our existing customers. You know, we've got multiple products. I remember going to NADA and a dealer customer came up and he'd been a customer for 5 years, you know, or 10 years or something. And we showed him like our identification solutions. And he actually got angry. He's like, well, how come I didn't know about this? You know, right? And so it's really hard because we want to reach out to our dealers and we try to, but they're always busy, you know. It's the typical thing as a vendor. They call you when they have a problem or a fire or something they need to address, right? Otherwise, well, they don't need to talk to us, right? You know, where I would say for us, we'd love to be able to help them more. And I think we can do that through education.
Yeah. So what about a guy who's considering your company? What would you say to them? Why would we want to have them get involved with Elend?
Well, we're sustainable. We're credible. We've been around a long time. We've got proven track record. Yeah. We're not the new shiny nickel, you know, pitching stuff. And you know, we have products that have been proven and tested. Like, you know, we operate in 18 of the 20 largest dealer groups. We've got, you know, a whole bunch of number one nameplates of brands that, you know, have been crushing it for decades, you know, the largest Toyota store, the largest Honda store, the largest Chrysler Dodge Jeep store, Nissan, Hyundai, you know, Kia, all of those things a lot of those have been our customers for forever, you know? Yeah. And so, you know, we've earned our stripes. And for us, it's just, we reach out, let us inform you, let us educate you, and you make your own choices. I would say, give us an opportunity to show you what we can do for you. You bet. And then make your own decision.
Pete, thank you so much. I really do appreciate you taking the time. Look like you're comfortable in your dwelling there. Obviously, you know, it's important for us if we're going to be sheltering in place that we can have our animals around. We can maybe get a little sunshine, do a little walking. Looks like you're taking good care of yourself, and we do appreciate you spending time with us today.
Thank you very much, David. And I look forward to visiting with you soon.
That sounds great. Thanks a lot, buddy. Bye-bye.
Bye.